Good evening and welcome to Washington National Cathedral. My name's Randy Hollerith and I'm the Dean of the Cathedral, and on behalf of all of us who serve here, we're so glad that you could join us tonight for this wonderful conversation with José Andrés. Thank you for being with us. Washington National Cathedral is a house of prayer for all people and a great church for national purposes. And we are committed to being a source of hope and reconciliation and healing in our nation. Bringing people together to hold some of the important conversations of the day is a priority for the Cathedral. As an institution that sits on one of the highest points of land in Washington, D.C., the National Cathedral seeks to be a bridge between the sacred and the civic in our country. Our programmatic focus at the Cathedral this spring is on leadership, specifically what good leadership looks like. And for Christians, that is leadership as exemplified by Jesus, or what we call in the church servant leadership. What an honor it is for my colleague, Leonard Hamlin, our Canon for Mission here at the Cathedral, and for me to be in conversation this evening with one of the most inspiring and innovative servant leaders of the 21st century. A chef, entrepreneur, humanitarian, José Andrés. So, as we begin tonight's program, if prayer is something important in your life, I invite you to join with me for a moment of prayer. This prayer is one that comes from the Jesuit tradition and from Catholic social thought. Let us pray. Gracious Lord, you shared the loaves and fishes and gave us an image of solidarity with the hungry. You shared yourself in the bread and wine and called all of us to your table. Give us the hunger to be a part of the feeding and the healing of this world. Nourish us with your grace so we may work with joy to serve your children. Open our eyes and our hearts to recognize those in poverty and increase our awareness of the structures and systems that need to be changed so that we may all break bread together. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Certainly, as we gather this evening, I'm privileged to be able to join in this conversation and to welcome our guest for this evening, who is one of the unique leaders in this generation and especially at this time that we all find ourselves in. So we welcome tonight, on behalf of our Dean and the Cathedral, chef extraordinaire, but the owner of Think Food Group and Mini Bar, Chef José Andrés. And if I share with you on this evening just a portion, for those who may not be familiar with some of his accomplishments, it's incredible that I won't even touch the surface of many of the things that you've been able to do that we're so grateful for. But he has been named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people, both in 2012 and 2018, and awarded Outstanding Chef and Humanitarian of the Year by the James Beard Foundation. He is an internationally recognized culinary innovator, New York Times best-selling author, an educator, television personality, humanitarian, and as noted, he's the chef and the owner of the Think Food Group. He's been a pioneer of Spanish tapas here in the United States, and he is also known for his groundbreaking avant-garde cuisine and his award-winning group of more than 30 restaurants. They've been located throughout the country and beyond, ranging in a variety of culinary experiences, from a food truck to a multi-location, vegetable-focused, fast, casual beefsteak, to a world-class tasting menus like Mini Bar. And so, as we come on this evening, he has both earned 2 Michelin stars. Andres is the only chef globally that has both 2-star Michelin restaurants and 4 Bib Gourmands. As a naturalized citizen originally from Spain, he has been a tireless advocate for immigration reform. And in 2010, he formed World Central Kitchen, which many of us, of course, are so grateful for the work that you've been doing. A nonprofit that provides smart solutions to end hunger and poverty by using the power of food to empower communities and strengthen economies. Most notably, his team served over 3.6 million meals to the people of Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria, an experience about which he wrote the best-selling book, We Feed an Island, the true story of rebuilding Puerto Rico one meal at a time. He has earned numerous awards, including the 2015 National Humanities Medal. For this evening, we say welcome, and we're grateful to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to start with, jump right into the heart of it, if you don't mind, Jose. Tell us a little bit about, I know people, especially people in the Cathedral community, tell us about your faith and how your faith influences what you do, and does it ground you in the work that you do?
Yeah, we go directly to the issues. I love it. Obviously, the question if I am a man of faith or not is something I didn't had a lot of time lately to think about. I've been very lucky because of the few things you mentioned. If I did anything or I achieve anything, it's because I've been always very lucky to have my wife next to me, she's here with us, Patricia. And when you ask me if I'm a man of faith, very much I own every piece of faith I may have inside me to her. I am a boy that I born in a Catholic family. For me, going to church was not so much going on Sunday, but almost every other day. I grew up in a little town called Santa Coloma de Cervelló near Barcelona. And very much, I remember my early days with los catequistas, as we call in Spanish, but the young men and women that they will be do the catechesis, if that's English, where for me was amazing to see a young group of men and women that we will gather often every week, and in summers we'll go to these summer camps. For me, church early on was my family. It's a place I call home. So it was beyond what was happening Sunday. When I bring all of these to today, I'm not the person you will see me every Sunday in church. Mm-hmm. Even my wife tries hard. But you will see me going very much and stopping in churches in the middle of hurricanes and earthquakes, mm-hmm. in the middle of explosions, like when we went to Beirut. And there you will see me not going once, but in every church I will find anywhere in the communities we are. I still remember being in St. Vincent, being in Providence, this tiny island in the Atlantic, an island that was hit by Hurricane 5, and was this beautiful church that was one of the only buildings that remained after the hurricane destroyed very much everything. For me, the church was very important in many ways because of the many places we were feeding around the island. That church, the bells remain intact. That was a church that was founded by some Capuchins from Valencia over a century before. And the way to know that the food was arriving in the daily ritual was when the bell of that church will be active and will be calling everybody, ringing, calling everybody to reunite in the same church. These brought memories of the many times in my town. Sometimes I will be the one ringing that bell and calling everybody to church, and this became for me almost this moment of bringing it back home, 360 degrees. The church obviously was that place that people were coming, yes, to feed their souls, but at times was the place that people were coming also at the same time of feeding their souls, feeding their bodies with the needed food. So yes, I will say I'm a man of faith, that I try to live in that faith every day, to follow the example in so many ways of Jesus, to follow the example of my wife, and going beyond that. Right now, we've been feeding people in places of different faiths, of different parts of the world. And you will see us obviously in churches, you will see us in synagogues, you will see us in mosques. At the end, what I always see is good people with empathy, and where everybody wants the best angels out, and out of them showing and shining and bringing goodness. In my case, we try to do goodness, use one plate of food at a time.
It seems clear to me that, and thank you for that answer, that was wonderful. From my point of view, it seems pretty clear that the work that you're doing, feeding so many people, stepping into so many emergencies, crises, hurricanes, earthquakes, you name it, is holy work. And even beyond that, in the church, we spread around a lot of bread and wine. That's what we do around here, right? You're doing meals on a much grander stage, but even your cooking, your work as a chef is holy work. It brings people together and creates community. Do you think of it that way at all? Has it occurred to you that it's holy work?
Well, I don't see it that way, but obviously, if it was on Matthew 25, for I was hungry and you gave me some food, for I was thirsty and you gave me some water, for I was a stranger and you welcomed me home or invite me in. Food, obviously, for a cook like me, we see that, yes, feeding the soul and feeding the body goes hand by hand. Very much I will not say, but when I was young, which my family always loved to cook, and we always believe in longer tables and shorter walls. My father, my mother, cooking was what we did. For me, as I said before, being a Christian Catholic boy, used to me to see that Jesus himself will be able to achieve the impossible and feed anybody that was hungry, and multiplying loaves and fishes. I think often about what he did and the example he became, and just trying to see that even he cooked breakfast on the third time he appeared to his disciples, where they were very unsuccessful catching any fish. And all of a sudden, just by telling them, put the nets on the right of your boat, and they were able to catch, and he cooked again fishes and breads on a little grill he had in the Sea of Galilee. I will not tell you that this for me has been an example. That obviously you try to do your tiny portion like many other people. I feel guilty at times because what I do sometimes gets maybe more news than that it deserves. Because when I go everywhere, what I try is to give voice to the voiceless. Actually, I can be telling you many men and women that right now, without any attention by anybody, they are right now in the business of feeding the hungry, of bringing water to the thirsty. And this, to me, in essence, is at the heart of what Jesus did for the Catholic and Christian faith. But this is very much what any other faith believes. Mm-hmm. That every woman should be fed, that every child should not be hungry anymore, and where water and food is an amazing way to be showing empathy to fellow citizens. That's a matter what religion they may be. At the end, we are all people on the face of earth, and where what must be good for me must be good for others. I do believe that, again, as I said before, yes, a plate of food will be a way, in my case, to be thinking about Jesus in that way, even what he did was beyond amazing. But he showed us that if there is a will, there is always a way.
Amen.
It's wonderful to hear you express your work in the way that you're expressing yourself, is that you're just being who you are. As persons of faith, we know how important it is, or we're told how important it is to help others, and then we recognize how it really affects us. Could you talk a little bit about how this work has perhaps transformed you, and how it has transformed you, as you are probably in an area where you were cooking first, but this humanitarian effort is transformational in many.
Well, my wife is the one that knows that I'm far away from a perfect boy. And thanks God I have her that keeps guiding me as much as she can. And 28, 29 years, she keeps trying to guide me, whatever that means. And I hope that she's been doing it more or less successfully. You know, for me, it's been many times in my life that I realize that I am who I am thanks to the many people that I have around me. All of us, we are who we are thanks to the people we have around us. Even people we forgot. Maybe our science teacher, who she will always have a wise word to us and give us her time to try to understand a concept we couldn't comprehend. A friend that maybe we even forgot how he looks like or his name, but he was there in our hardest moment when we were at school. Maybe the moment we got lost in a supermarket because our parents left and left us behind. I left one of my childs behind one time in a supermarket, but it happened to me too. And some stranger was right there making sure that we will not fit alone. Those amazing billions of moments of empathy, like if they were beautiful stars on the sky, that is who shape who we become. And we always must be thankful for those moments, because it's not only the obvious, our family, our close family, parents and brothers, but those other people beyond. So I do believe that's very much who we are. For me, I remember coming to Washington, D.C. I was 23, and I met Robert Egger, the founder of DC Central Kitchen, one of the best organizations, probably in America and the world, that show us how hunger is not a problem, but actually food can be the solution. A man that showed us how he could be taking homeless out of the streets and training them to be cooks, in the process feeding the hungry. An amazing investment into solutions. Robert Egger told me that philanthropy was always about the redemption of the giver, when philanthropy and charity should be about the liberation of the receiver. Jesus very much believed in that before anybody we know. Robert Egger thought that way in many ways. Me, I've been trying to carry on that promise. I'm not going to lie to you, Father, when I tell you that sometimes I will complain when in my hotel the shower will not have hot water. Life is about perception, about perspectives. Everything changes in the moment that you are in places that people are with a smile after everything around them has been destroyed, and they don't even have water to drink. It's important for me to be in those moments in a very selfish way. I will not mind to confess. Selfish because the only way I can really understand how naive and how selfish we are often is because maybe sometimes we don't put ourselves in those other moments and situations. When you come back from a place that people were literally boiling roots as the only food they had to feed their children, you don't complain anymore in the restaurant. Even you have the right to do it, especially if it's in mine, when the food comes cold. At the end, it's about what you understand is really important. Me, I'm a very cranky boy, often for the most unnecessary things. And I try to always ask forgiveness for those moments of crankiness But really things has changed in my mind when I've seen the best of people in those moments of disrepair, and I've seen the best souls reacting to adversity with grace, with a smile, with not complaining, when at times I feel ashamed that I will complain to the smallest things. This has shaped a lot who I am today in ways I cannot give value to those men and women that they don't realize they made me better, like I'm sure made better many of us. So for me, when I go to those places, I'm thankful to the people that give me the opportunity to serve, because in the process, the lessons I bring back with me to my community, to my family, to my friends, I think make me slightly better, slightly better. And so for those men and women that in this repair show me the best of humanity, show me that the best angels do really exist, I'm always grateful, and that's why, yes, Father, I learn a lot, and this is being shaping in many ways who I am today as a person.
I know we're just getting started, but I'm already getting way more than what perhaps I was hoping for, is you're challenging us to be aware of what's going on around us, but even challenging us to be aware of what's going on inside of us and to become self-aware. So I thank you for that. Your work has truly been inspiring to many and transformational for many. And so we know it's important to be supportive of efforts that on tonight we just want to invite others who may be viewing from wherever you're viewing, that the Cathedral is going to support World Central Kitchen by making a donation of $5,000 to the World Central Kitchen effort. And we're inviting others, challenged, to join us in that giving. And you'll find information where you can give and participate in helping others on this evening. It's one thing to be a bystander, but it's another thing to participate in the transformation. And just on tonight, to lift up how you're touching so many, here at the Cathedral, we know we are located here on St. Albans Hill, but we're located with all of the other institutions that make up the Cathedral Close. And we have other schools that are part of the family here on the Close. And our Bovar School, which is here, which is our youngest children, wanted to have a food drive, and then heard you were coming and got excited. So you're touching not only those who may be more seasoned, you're touching our younger generation who are thinking about their role in the world, having discussions because of the places that you're operating. And so after learning about so many of our neighbors who were without jobs, food insecure, the Arctic Foxes group, which is the bee kindergarten cohort group, was inspired to host a food drive for our community. And it's going to take place this coming week on next Tuesday and Wednesday, May 18th and 19th. So they're hosting a food drive, going to donate to United Planning Organization here in Washington, D.C. that serves Ward 7, and provide non-perishable food items, and they'll donate to the families there. And so we invite others to support United Planning Organization, which the information is available as well. But tonight, we have a special invitation for them where they want to be able to join us this evening and ask you a question. So we're going to view that video and see them now.
Hi, José Andrés. Thank you for taking our question. We are the Arctic Foxes Group B kindergarten cohort from Bovar, the National Cathedral Elementary School. We are inspired by the amazing work you do to feed the hungry all over the world. Your work makes us think of the Bovar life rules: kindness, responsibility, and respect. We have been learning about our hungry neighbors, and our class inspired a food drive at our school. Next week, we will bring in the food we like best to share with neighbors in need, and we will decorate placemats for them. On Thankful Thursdays, we will exercise our attitudes of gratitude by hearing stories, counting our blessings, and reaching out. Last month, we collected books for 2 schools in D.C. where children like us are learning to read and starting libraries of their own. We would like to know how you think gratitude can inspire kindness, sharing, and giving, not just for kids, but for grown-ups too.
Hopefully, as they were asking that question, I'll just repeat it, as we're in this space, and there's quite a bit of echoing going on. But they would like to know how you think gratitude can inspire kindness, sharing, and giving, not just for kids, but for grown-ups as well.
Wow. Nothing like...
The faith question was easy compared to that one.
Yeah. I mean, I think I mentioned before of who has shaped who I am, who shapes who we are. And I think gratitude and the word thanks is something we should be probably use it more often than what we do. I realize, and I'm going to repeat myself, that through my life I became who I became, and the person I am thanks to those people decide to invest in me. I wish I could go back in time and show my gratitude to many of those people. I didn't. The amazing thing, though, is that the people that give don't expect anything in exchange. So gratitude becomes even a more important thing, because maybe you should not say thanks. You should be paying it back with giving yourself to others and to your community, because you know you will never be able to give everything you received. So at the end, gratitude, giving thanks, is not just something like it's very easy to say. It's simple to say thanks, but do you really mean it? It's easy to say that you are in debt with the ones that gave you something. But what really becomes a very powerful tool for the betterment of who we are, for the betterment of our communities, is when you step up and do what has to be done to make things better. It doesn't require huge. You don't need to say, I'm going to end hunger in the world, or I'm going to heal the sick. No, it doesn't require things that are grandiose that maybe only Jesus could do. But sometimes you realize that some of the big problems, they have very simple solutions. We, men, try to overcomplicate things. And sometimes it requires a very small action. Sometimes it's a smile and a wink of your eye to somebody that maybe you see it's in need of a smile. Or you just putting your hand in the shoulder of a friend that maybe is going through a hard time. Or maybe it's a phone call in the distance to somebody that maybe you don't understand the value that hearing your voice can have on the other side of the phone, especially in this pandemic that we saw how now a Zoom, but just being in touch with others, especially elderly, especially people feeling alone, had a value that was beyond what we can understand. So I believe gratitude and being thankful is not something, it's very much like the faith. It's not anymore enough to say, I am a Catholic, I am a Jewish, I am a Muslim. We should be saying less who we are and show more the example of what we really are. Being people of faith and being people that wants to give thanks. It's not used to say, because I am Catholic. That's it. I'm excuse of everything. No, we need to show our faith with our actions, not with our sayings. Used to say it's not enough. If we are having a moment that we have children in the border, forgotten, and you say you are a Catholic or you're a Christian, show that you are a Christian, not with your words claiming it, but with your actions supporting the men and women that actually putting politics aside will take care of those children in the same way Jesus said, let those children get close to me. That's the way to show the gratitude for the word of Jesus. Stop you talking about what you are and who you are, and show with your actions what you really believe in. So it's many ways to be showing gratitude. If we are here showing gratitude to the work of God and of Jesus, and let's make sure that that gratitude is used not with a cheap speech, but with actions in every one of our beliefs. And this is a great way to be grateful to everything we've been given. And this is maybe a way to really build a better world.
Amen. Amen. We got to get you out of that chair and up in that pulpit. That was good.
I get inspired listening to all of you. That's the problem.
So let me ask you another question. So tell us about talk to us a little bit about the World Central Kitchen and how it came to be, and did you ever think back in 2010 when it sort of came into being that it would become what it is today?
Not really. Obviously, a lot of little things happen when I open. I remember reading John Steinbeck and the Grapes of Wrath. And I saw that even in the richest country in the world, there was inequalities. I remember reading The Pearl, where also I saw that was, wow, huge differences. Where I grew up, I didn't see people that were hungry. I didn't see. But in the moment I began traveling the world, I began going to Africa and to South America and to the Caribbean, and I began seeing that the world was a beautiful place to be part of, but that there was people that had and people that had not. And I realized that life couldn't be about a lottery ticket, where the few, the ones that were born with the lottery ticket, we have a good life, and the ones that born without the lottery ticket, they have a bad life. Life should not be about a lottery ticket. World Central Kitchen very much happened because a lot of little things. When I opened in 1993, Jaleo, on 7th and E, downtown Washington, D.C., 3 years later, across the street, they discovered an office when they were doing a new building. That office was the missing soldiers office. That was the office of Mrs. Clara Barton. The woman, being a nurse, like my mom was a nurse, put everything on the side and took care of the wounded soldiers in the Civil War. Is the one that began finding what happened to the loved ones, and trying to tell the families what really happened and where they were buried. A woman that with nothing did something astonishing, creating the American Red Cross. For me, when obviously the lessons learned in this Central Kitchen, peeling potatoes next to ex-convicts, cleaning lettuce next to homeless, and being there next to them and learning from them. And learning that they don't want our pity, but they want our respect. The way to give them respect is being there next to them. Yeah. Because life is about a lottery ticket. That happens, I got as an immigrant, but they didn't. They are like, who gives these tickets? Because I didn't got one. If as an immigrant I became part of the American dream, why those men and women, sometimes many of them veterans? Life is complex, and life is fascinating at the same time. World Central Kitchen came very much by the inaction I had during years before. When I watched Katrina from the comfort of my home, and I saw that thousands of Americans were in the Superdome, that during days they didn't have food or water. I thought why I was not there. Other events that you are thinking, I am a cook that feeds the few, but also I have the talent to feed the many. World Central Kitchen came very much not for the willingness to do, but almost in a regretful way of I didn't do when I had the opportunity to serve. And that's the moment that Haiti happened, and I said, no more. I landed not with willingness to feed anybody, but willingness to learn. Sometimes we must learn in order to be helpful. Learning is part of the experience of life. In the process of learning, yes, you are doing, but in the process you listen to what the voiceless that nobody hears are trying to tell you. To me, it's very amazing that when we are talking about hunger, and we have a big conference in the United Nations, do you ever heard a hungry person talk in the United Nations? Why we don't listen to the hungry? Why we don't listen to the voiceless? How are we gonna be finding solutions to the problems those men and women face if we are not willing to listen to them? Me, the boy overweight, I'm gonna be telling the hungry what the solutions are? World Central Kitchen came with this idea to listen to the voiceless, to be there to the people that feel alone, especially in emergencies. That's why Haiti was such a good place for me. I went many times on the first year after that earthquake. World Central Kitchen was funded by my wife and I and my partner Rob Wilder and Rob. We put, I think, $100,000 between both families. And with that simple idea, let's bring food to the hungry and let's bring water to the thirsty in emergencies. Has become what has become, not because that was my dream, has become what has become because this is the empathy of every man and woman that make World Central Kitchen what it is. Every time something happens, like Beirut, the big explosion, big part of the city destroyed, thousands of young men and women in Beirut came out to the streets to clean, many came to join us. In less than 12 hours, we had 10 kitchens, and we were able to do close to 20,000 meals a day. 10 kitchens around the perimeter of Ground Zero where the explosion happened. I am surprised that World Central Kitchen is becoming what it's becoming. To a degree, yes. But I thought, let me be pretentious for a second. I didn't call it World Central Kitchen for anything. I did believe that if I bring the food people of the world under one umbrella and we unite, very much we can end hunger in this century. What you are seeing right now is that every time there is an emergency, it's not only the men and women of World Central Kitchen, but it's the entire community that join us and let us do what we do. And together with the people, we are able to make a big problem into a very simple solution. One plate of food at a time. We are there next to the people in their darkest hour. I'm very amazed by the power of the people. And if we sincerely believe in we the people, and those that don't think like you, they are not your enemy, but people that bring a new point of view to the table that makes us and enriches and help us to be better, that becomes a very powerful moment. That's what World Central Kitchen is doing. So in a degree, yes, I'm very surprised that right now we are doing so many things. We are in more than 14 countries at once as we speak. Right now we are serving the men and women of India in more than 7, 8 cities. But this is only happening for something like I really believe was already there and I knew was there. That everybody wants the best angels out. Everybody has them inside. Everybody wants to put their demons away and bring their angels out. Because that's real. I'm not so surprised that World Central Kitchen is having kind of the success it's having for such a small organization. Because there's so much goodness out there in the world that the only thing we are doing is just trying to open a little window into the heart of every person. The angels go out. We are able to feed as many people as we can in the key moments, in the darkest hour of many communities.
It's amazing to me the goodness that you see and how that is consuming for you and inspiring. Much as you talk about wanting to help, even here at the Cathedral, our vicar was inspired to take a team of congregation members as well as our students who are part of the Cathedral Scholars Program to Puerto Rico, simply because of the work that you have been doing. And when we look at how you inspire leaders, leaders are called into leadership within the moment, whether or not we hear it of God or, as you said, we hear it from our wives, one or the other, but God gets our attention in this. There's so much to navigate on the ground and coordinate. As a leader, how do you keep mission drift from taking place? Because you're organizing, you're setting everyone up, and the work gets done in ways that are just inspiring and fascinating to so many. So as a leader, how do you approach that?
I would like to tell you, I know. I'm still trying to find out. I told you that I'm only as good as the people I have around me. I have very good people around me. I keep trying to go to the big missions, like when we have a Hurricane 5, usually you'll see me there. I cannot escape the fate that I like to be there because I think that's when I am at my best. But there's many other situations that you will see men and women racing to the top challenges, maybe a hurricane, maybe a volcano, maybe a fire, maybe an earthquake. I think it's the clarity of the mission. We got if you are a Catholic, if you are a Christian, you got the 10 Commandments. If you say you are a person of faith and you're a Christian, it's very simple to know how you can be successful. They lay out in front of us the 10 Commandments that if you follow them, you are fairly perfect. But you start breaking one and the other, okay, we can go Sunday and ask for forgiveness. Man, that's like cheating. Actually, I will not allow anybody used to ask for forgiveness. Just follow the 10 Commandments. It's like if you play Monopoly. You play with the rules. If you don't follow the rules, you're cheating. Well, the 10 Commandments are very simple. Obviously, they're trying to run humanity, help humanity to be the best we can on this earth we've been given. Because World Central Kitchen only is trying to just feed people. Our mission, to a degree, is in the same simplicity of the 10 Commandments. We feed the hungry and we bring water to the thirsty. Everybody understands, like the commandments themselves, what it takes to be successful. And they must do whatever it takes to achieve that. In Bahamas, 80,000 people after Dorian Category 5 hurricane destroyed not only the 2 big islands in the north, Grand Bahama and Abaco, but 14 other little islands and cays. The only way to bring food to the north in a hurricane that destroyed literally every building was through helicopters. We didn't even have budget for helicopters. They're expensive. But if the only way was to do it, let's get the helicopters. We couldn't bring them from Florida, let's bring them from Haiti. We had this amazing Navy captain. He came with one, but we needed more. We ended up having 4 or 5 other helicopters. Before we knew, we were delivering food every single day through helicopter. You see, the mission was simple. We planned too much. When Jesus multiplied fish and loaves, did he plan for it? No, it just happened. Where is all this? I wish I had a restaurant there, a food truck. I didn't. But he adapted. If anything, we saw that Jesus was a man of adaptation. We try to adapt because the plan, nothing goes as planned, especially in emergencies. if we plan too much for that perfect life we want, chances are that nothing ever will go as planned. Therefore, what do? We don't have the perfect life we ever dream of. So what? You have to keep living, because the plan is not going as you imagine. Let's embrace the complexity and let's enjoy the adaptation. The men and women of World Central Kitchen, they're good at that adapting. They're good at making the best with what we have. We are an organization that we are not so much about hardware, meaning things that you can touch and own, but we are more about software, about feeling, about to do whatever we can do with what we have at hand. While others are waiting for the assets to arrive, we are doing the best we can what we have at hand. While others are meeting to try to adapt to the plan they had, we are already adapting and feeding as many people as we can with what. In the process, the plan shows itself. In the process, the solutions don't come up by our own brains, but the solutions show on their own. It's like they have their own life. And in the process, like in Bahamas, we didn't only were bringing in less than 6 days 80,000 meals a day. We did water filtration system with solar. Why? Because we were there. We were watching that they didn't have water. We couldn't bring water for 80,000. It's too heavy. But we could be bringing filtration systems to be bringing to every community. In the process, we did 50 medical evacuations. We are not ambulance, we are not nurses, we don't know about that. But if we had the helicopters and we were there, why will not use them to bring the people that had to be evacuated from the hospitals? All of a sudden, by being there next to the people, listening to them, feeling their pain, even you could not really feel it, you could only imagine it. We could be responding in real time to the needs before any of the bigger organizations even landed. What makes us different? Actually, nothing exceptional. The only thing that makes us different is that we have boots on the ground and we're next to the people. That's the only thing that is differentiating us. Now, is many suffering around the world. We are only a tiny, tiny, tiny grain of sand in the beach of life. We are trying to be in more places every time, and we are doing this by learning how to grow logically and in the smartest possible way, because the people of the world cannot afford that organization like us will fail. So as we keep moving forward, we are learning how to be better, how to be quicker, how to be faster, and how to be smart. At the end, I say, bigger problems, they have very simple solutions. We're trying to make sure that we don't overcomplicate the situations, but simplify.
You know, there's a tradition. You were talking about Jesus and the loaves and fishes and how he's in the minute and how he's in the moment and adapts, and it's so true. And there's a tradition that says that the miracle of the loaves and fishes is not that Jesus magically made all this food appear out of nowhere, but that the miracle of the loaves and fishes is that Jesus takes this tiny little bit of food that he has, that he and the disciples have, with this crowd of 5,000 sitting out there all around, and he offers it up to the people, to feed the people. And it inspires the miracle of their own generosity to offer what the little bit that they have up to the crowd as well. And that when all of that is put together, it's enough to feed the entire group. So this notion that generosity inspires generosity. And that's what I hear you saying in some way. Have you found that to be the case? That, you know, that you're out there trying to feed people and you don't have helicopters and you can't afford helicopters, but here they come because you're being generous and giving to others, and it inspires others to do the same.
So, I don't know if I told that story, but I am in this little town called Fomberet, in the border between Dominican Republic and Haiti, and was this community of 2,000 people. This was not just related directly anymore to the earthquake, But it was a community that was poor and was a big drought, and they were in need. And was there some Spanish NGOs that they were doing God's work, and we began feeding. And one Sunday, I was cooking there, and I don't know what happened, but we were supposed to be feeding 400 or 500 people. And for some reason, 4 times the number probably came in. We had no more food, and believe me, it was not a supermarket in the area I could just go and buy. It was a complicated place, and what was available to us was. But almost by our magic, some French NGO that was nearby, they said, "Well, Jose, I don't know, but we have this old bread, and we have these cans of sardines in tomato." I'm like, "Old bread? How old?" It's really hard. I'm like, "But this bread is in good condition." "Yeah, but this is old and hard. It's like a rock." I remember my mom will make the most amazing things with the hard old bread. Hard old bread that probably in today's world, if it's hard, we go and we throw it garbage. My mother never throw a piece of bread garbage. She will make breadcrumbs. With that, she will roll croquetas, these amazing bechamel fritters. She'll always have a use for it. Or she will make this amazing soup, sopa de ajo, which is a very humble soup of garlic, olive oil, water, if she didn't have chicken stock, and the old bread that will become soft, and she will put an egg, and she will make this amazing soup. When out of nothing, this French NGO, and I had that bread and I had those sardines, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be simple. I began opening the cans of sardines. I began taking all the juice out of the sardines. We began putting everybody with knives, cutting the crumbs in the smaller pieces. I began sauteing the bread that was hard with a little bit of oil we had left of corn. And then I began putting all the tomato and the oil coming out of the sardines. I added a little bit of water. The bread began getting soft. At the end, I kept sauteing. It's very traditional in Spain, these breadcrumbs. We call them migas. And at the end, we began putting these sardines on top, and we began feeding. At the end, we were able to feed everybody that came beyond the number we prepared for. So in life, sometimes, I believe if you wish it and you wish it hard, things happen. Probably somebody was listening, and they sent them my way. But me, quite frankly, I got a little bit emotional when that moment somebody showed up with bread and sardines. And we were able not to leaving many people in the middle of nowhere, hungry. And that these people came in ways I will never understand, in the middle of nowhere. And they provide me with ingredients that I could keep feeding. Moments like this happen. And it's amazing that they happen. And it's always a lot of goodness on the earth, I tell you.
Moments of grace.
Moments of grace.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a wonderful story.
You know, all that you've been speaking about is these, and I keep using the term transformational, to hear you speak about situations, lives, even the food of taking something and transforming it and changing it. You know, it's a very key theme that you have, changing the world, of course, through food, that you hold up. If you could make that plain for everyone, what do you really want to change about the world? When you talk about it, of changing the world, what do you really want to see different?
Well, I have 3 daughters. And I try to see the world more through the eyes of a woman, because I do believe the world will be a better place if we not only see the world through the eyes of a woman, but if all we will empower more women to really be part of the leadership that can keep moving the world forward. I'm a cook, and more often than not, boys like me, we get all the credit for the best restaurants, and even if we are feeding many people around the world. When I go in the world, Let me tell you, Father, who feeds the world? Who feeds the world are women. Every single place, in every single corner, especially in the forgotten areas, in the rural areas, in our own communities, who is feeding the world are women. So the world I would like to change is a world where we give women really, really the respect they deserve. Not individually as our own family clusters, our communities, but women in very big letters. I do believe that the connection we have to food that becomes so sacred, that is the food that restores our bodies, but we know restores our souls, is this firm belief I have that if we think about the Father, the first act of love we are given, like if Virgin Mary was in every single moment, is that moment that the mother feeds the children as comes out of the womb. A moment that we are all unconscious, a moment that we are not able to remember. But I do believe that moment, that connection between a mother feeding us, feeding every children on earth, that moment of love, that moment of care, that moment of giving us something physical in the form of food, it's something like makes this connection forever. When I say that we need to believe in longer tables, this is because the maternal shows up in every moment that we are feeding somebody. At the end of the day, women are feeding the world every single day. What I would like to change in the world is that we make those women powerful, not only used to feed in the moments of hardships, but to make sure that they are feeding us not only physically, but feeding our souls. We need to be giving more voice to the voiceless. We need to be giving more power to the powerless. And we need to make sure that this moment that we really receive that love in the form of food, it's only that we are more aware, so carries on. When we are in a table and we all love to share food, we all love to invite people. I do believe we are all trying to give back all that love that we receive initially. When you ask me what I would like to change in the world, really, I think we all need to make sure that every single woman in the world deserves the respect, it receives the respect it deserves, and is given the support that it deserves. If we do that, every community will become stronger. We can, I do believe then, only then, create a better world. This is something I sincerely would like to change in the world. More respect and more love from the women that has given us so much love and respect to every one of us.
So building off that, your answer there, then I think you're so right. I mean, amen, about the importance of women around the world and in all of our communities. Let me ask you this question. So you just talked about how women inspire you. Who else inspires you? Who are your heroes? Who do you look up to and admire, either from your past or in your present?
Well, it's tonight we mentioned a few people like Clara Barton, we mentioned Robert Egger, I mentioned obviously my wife. Will be very easy used to be given names that are known by all, like Mohammed Gandhi. For me, one of the things that make me a big fan of Gandhi, the person, was that he was able just to do a revolution in such a peaceful way. One of the moments I love of what Gandhi did was the march to Dandi, where a way to say that the oppressed Indian people could rebel against the power of the British Empire was helping people make salt. So they will not pay any taxes per British. Nobody wants to pay taxes to the British. And showing people how to make something was a great way to be rebelling in a peaceful way. Salt that is so essential to human life, he was creating this moment of liberating the people by an act of goodness, not by an act of hate. And this, to me, I think is an amazing, powerful example. Even this came much later in my life, learning and understanding a woman like Mrs. Tubman, how single-handed she was able to free many, many slaves and became an inspiration to many others by risking her own life once she became free. And how Mrs. Tubman herself kept going back and back to try to be liberating more people that were slaves. Those acts of beyond heroics, once you are in the comfort of your own home, of your own life, that you wish to move away into danger zone. This is something like really makes me think. Somebody said one time that seems that life really starts at the end of your comfort zone. Do we become weaker by being too comfortable? Do we take everything for granted by expecting everything? In my life, I learned that yes, life sometimes it starts at the end of your comfort zone, when you go beyond that horizon of goodness, where everything is known, and you put yourself, I will not say in harm's way, but in that situation that nothing is given to you anymore, but you must earn it. Me, I keep looking for those people, and obviously it's many more, but Mrs. Tubman will be one, obviously Gandhi will be another. And as I said before, we are who we are thanks to the many stories of so many that shape who we are, that shape who we became, who we become.
There is the call, as you said, to get involved, to touch, and to be in the midst of all that is going on. Do you find challenges that are unique everywhere that you go, or do you find some similarities that we should be holding on to that are just universal when you're going from place to place in the country to try and solve these needs?
One thing I learned, that food is universal. And food brings people together. In emergencies, obviously, I learned that, I mentioned before, people don't want our pity, people want our respect. The way to give them respect in the form of food, I still remember being in Haiti, cooking these black beans. I was making them like I liked them. I had all these women helping me until at the end, when we were about to be serving 500 people in one of these refugee camps, a group of women came with a translator and told me, "We thank you for making the meal you are making us, but we don't eat those beans that way here." And me, I was like, "What? I am José Andrés and I made those beans and they're delicious." They, "Yeah, but they don't eat them that way." Oh man, really? You see, people don't want our pity, people want our respect. The way for me giving respect was making the beans the way they like to eat them. It took 2 more hours to have them ready in the way they wanted, but we were giving them their dignity, we were giving them respect. That was, for me, a big lesson. Everywhere we go, we try, yes, to cook as local we can, because nothing is more doesn't send a better message than comfort, and that things will go back to normal sooner than later, than a plate of food in the way you usually eat in normal times. In Bahamas, we were bringing people from Haiti, and we got permission from the Bahamian government because we had a lot of Haitians, many of them undocumented. And the thing that was giving them kind of a happy moment in their complicated lives after losing their homes and being in shelters was that we were cooking Haitian dishes in a way even they couldn't afford themselves in the good times. But what I see all across, that's a matter if we are in Indonesia, cooking with the help of mosque and local communities, or if we are in Lebanon, or we are in Australia after the fires, is that we mentioned through this conversation tonight that unfortunately the best of humanity shows up in the worst moments. The best of who we are shows up in the moments of darkness, in the moments of disrepair, in the moments of no hope. Is when I see hope, is when I see the best angels coming out, is when I see the best of people, as individuals and as a community. I think sometimes those moments maybe is a way to tell us when things are good and things are peaceful, why we don't behave better as humans, why the best has to come in the worst moments. And this is something I keep asking myself sometimes, because in those moments I only see goodness. Goodness that is enough to fill up the world 100 times over. We must bring in the goodness of those moments in darkness in the good times. Let's hope that out of this pandemic, empathy will show up better. Listening and respecting those that don't think like you. Understanding that who doesn't share your same faith is not your enemy. It's just another way for God to express itself. Whatever is the person and the faith we follow, faiths, I learned, they are all sharing the same common goals of good family, of good community, of being people of good, of doing good for you and doing good for your loved ones and others. But you ask me, the best is that food brings everybody together. Longer tables win the day. Shorter walls wins the day. And that the best shows up of humanity in the worst moments. These are the commonalities I see in every single tragedy we go to serve.
We're going to take some questions from our folks online in just a minute, but I wanted to change the subject pretty dramatically and ask you, you keep an amazing schedule, you have your hands in so many things, you're doing such good work. What do you do for fun? What do you do to recharge your batteries, to unwind? How do you get fed yourself?
Well, I'm here with you right now. This is almost, I feel almost is like a confession in public. I mean,
well, you are sort of surrounded.
They put me one on the right, one on the left, and my wife in the front. I mean, like,
that's right.
I do plenty. I feel more than blessed in more ways than one. But obviously, I find plenty of time. I have a little garden that I like to try to produce asparagus, and I produce 10 asparagus per year, probably the most expensive asparagus in the history of mankind. I try to spinach. I was able to plant radishes that my wife loves, and we picked them up yesterday. But also I do it because I want to learn how hard it is to feed humanity with the goodness of the earth. Again, not to take it for granted. But I do those things. But in the process, I also challenge myself to understand what in this pandemic we saw men and women while I was in the comfort of my home. And all of us, maybe we were in the comfort of our homes if we could afford it. That we had men and women working in the farms of America, in the farms of the world, so the rest of us, we could eat. Men and women that were delivering home food so we could stay in the comfort of our homes, and they were putting themselves at risk. In everything I do, even when I try to enjoy myself, I try just to connect to what is beyond. I love to scuba dive, but also I love to see what are we doing with the oceans we live in, where we are taking them for granted, and maybe one day will not be fish to feed the need. And we will need a miracle, and more than a miracle. Everything I try to do, obviously I do it for fun, but life is short. I know we're going to go to a better life after life on earth ends. But I think it's important that every second counts, that every minute counts. That yes, sometimes it's good to do something like doesn't achieve anything. But even when you do something like doesn't achieve anything, like when I do kite surf, you're trying to achieve something. I'm trying to understand the power of the winds to move who we may be. I try to understand that we may think we are not in control of our destiny, but then we can shape the destiny if we just think about it and we work hard to try to shape it. I'm a guy that believes life has a plan for all of us, that God already knows what to expect from all of us. But at the same time, I think that He is expecting that we will enjoy every minute we have, giving thanks for every minute we have on this planet, enjoy every single thing we're trying to do. And in my case, I'm good at nothing, but I try to learn a little bit about everything. So I'm very thankful that what other people will call work is not my work. I cook and I love to cook. I feed and I love to feed. And yes, that's my job. But it's not my job, it's my
calling.
It's my calling. And so every time I'm doing something, I always say that whatever I do is in between meal and meal. And it's used to occupy my free space. So from watching the stars to scuba diving, to kite surfing, to playing tennis, I do all of those things, even I'm the worst at them. But for me, it's just the moments in between that make me sometimes to reflect on the next food I buy, the next food I share, or the next meal I cook. And everything else keeps life interesting.
Thank you for that. I'll turn it over to Michelle, who's got some of the questions from our folks.
Thank you. Wow, it is such a blessing to have you with us. And I think I probably speak for the more than 500 folks who are watching online as well, that we're so grateful to you. I had the privilege in preparing for your visit here to sit down and talk with a number of people who are part of our congregation that do work in hunger ministries. And most of them are involved in addressing long-term hunger concerns. And so one of the things that they would love to hear you talk about is what you see when you're on the ground in emergencies that can help address some of the long-term hunger questions that are out there. What do you see? What would you share?
Yeah, the long-term hunger issues is something like is the blue elephant in the room. We see very often that the big organizations, UN, others, governments, richer governments, America, Europe, we're going to end hunger on the face of earth. It seems every 30 or 40 years is a big announcement of those sorts. But what is very important after those announcements happen, what really tickles down in a way that really sticks. We know that the only thing we have is opportunity, because we know we are producing more food than food needed to feed humanity. But we have a big problem on distribution and preservation. Preservation, because much of the food goes to waste and goes back to the land, which, by the way, is not a bad thing, because on paper enriches that land so can keep producing. So we need to be pragmatic about that understanding. But we know that if we will tackle preservation, especially in places that have a hardship producing, and is where many of the food issues are, we will go a long way. So I said before that it seems that sometimes philanthropy and charity is about the redemption of the giver versus the liberation of the receiver. Sometimes we're concentrating too much in soup kitchens, in food banks. We need them in certain moments, and we should be supporting them. But it's true that sometimes we see that in this 20th century of ours, going into 21st, We have a situation where we have what is called the working poor. Not too long ago, if you work very much, you could raise a family and you will eat better or worse, but you will be fat. How it is possible that in a moment of riches, especially in the rich countries, when it's so much food to go around, people that work seems are not able to feed themselves. So you ask me what I see. What I see is that we need to make sure that every single working man and woman in the process of working can be feeding themselves. Why do we have corporations donating food to food banks, or when sometimes the same employees of those businesses and maybe one of my restaurants are not able to feed themselves? I rather prefer be making less money, but make sure that no one of the employees of any big company that maybe is giving dividends to every one of their investors, which I have no problem. I invest in Wall Street too. I want to have a big company too. That should be celebrated. But I do believe that the new American dream should be what must be good for you must be good for others. What you wish for you, you must wish for others. Sometimes big problems have very simple solutions. Let's make sure that the people that work can feed themselves, and more important, let's make sure that we end this problem we have. The people that feed the world, at times it seems they cannot be feeding themselves. So, simple solutions are investment and preservation. Everywhere that there is food production, especially in poor countries, make sure that no one pound of food ever goes to waste. Let's invest in the factories that can preserve the goodness of the earth. And let's make sure that the men and women work in those fields are able to be feeding themselves. In the process, they are helping their community to be richer. Used to end. Something that has to do with food that nobody will connect the dots. No one single problem lives in its own nest. Every single thing is interconnected. Immigration reform is not a problem for America to solve, it's an opportunity for America to seize. What immigration reform has to do with hunger? If we have 11, 12 million undocumented in America right now, underpaid, sometimes mistreated, sometimes ghosts of the system, if those men and women were already documented, that they could go back to their countries with revolving visas, that they could be bringing wealth and the know-how of what they learn in America, making countries like Honduras, Venezuela, Guatemala, Colombia better and richer, one community at a time, all of a sudden we will make those countries richer. All of a sudden we will end hunger in those countries. All of a sudden we will make America richer. All of a sudden we will stop the problem we have right now in the border. All of a sudden we will fulfill the needs of every single restaurant and business in America that we don't have enough people to hire. All of a sudden we are ending hunger. You see, some of the big problems, they have very simple solutions. Sometimes we decide not connecting the dots, and we let the problems stay being problems by not being bold in a moment that we need to be bolder than ever. This is few of the things I see, but there are many more, but we have not so much time.
Well, I could stay here all night and listen to you expound on solutions. That would be amazing. So from the very big to the more personal. Patty from Wisconsin, who's watching tonight, is asking if you would talk about resiliency, and in particular, how you witness people overcoming challenges, and what role food and community play in helping people with resiliency.
Well, resiliency is something like for World Central Kitchen is very important, and we learn from other places, but let me give you examples. In Puerto Rico right now, after Maria hit with Category 5 wind forces, Puerto Rico, and after the work we did, we never disappear anymore. What we did, we stay, and we began building resiliency in the form of, right now we have 250 partners, 250 farmers. from milk producers, cheese producers, fishermen, woman cooperative of mango trees and avocado trees, lettuce. All of a sudden, we partnered with 250 small farmers that they couldn't get a loan from the banks because they were too small, and they will not get any aid. We partner with them. The support that people give us, they believe in World Central Kitchen to do a good, smart use of those funds. We thought that the best way we could be putting those funds was giving the island of Puerto Rico, the beautiful part of America and the Caribbean, the resiliency by making sure that young people will not leave the island, making sure that they will stay, making sure that we will support them not only financially, but with know-how, and rebuilding smarter. How? If you had a greenhouse that could produce romaine lettuces, let's make sure that we build it in a way that if another hurricane comes, everything can go back into a container, that the container is attached to the ground, everything goes in, the next hurricane comes, the hurricane passes, everything is safe, everything they had is protected, the hurricane goes away, they can go into business in 48 hours. This is the type of things that we're trying to be building resiliency. And in the big picture, understanding this, doing good is not enough. Doing good only helps you feel better. We must do a smart good. That means helping the receiver. What that means? When we went to Haiti, the international community gave so much food for free that we should feel good. America did very well, the rest of rich countries support Haiti, but we gave so much rice for free that we put the rice farmers of Haiti out of business. In the process of doing good, we were creating more problems. Those farmers, they didn't plan the next 1-2 seasons. Why? Because nobody will pay for the rice. Why? Because why they would? Nobody will buy rice. We were giving so much for free. Free is not good enough sometimes. That's why we must do not good anymore, but the smart good. If we do those things, we make sure that our help becomes part of the solution. No, our help becomes and increases the problem itself. That's ways to create and build resiliency in the communities.
Thank you. I've got one more question. I think we've got time for that. Before I ask the question, I want to make sure to say thank you to a number of the people who aren't on this platform who are helping make this happen tonight. So Hannah is moderating our chat. Margaret helped to organize all of this, and Brian and Dasha and Mark are doing sound and video so that all of these folks who are watching get to see what's happening. So we want to say thank you to the folks who are behind the scenes running. So here's the last question. What's next? What's your next big project, big idea, big plan? What should we watch for?
Well, like many of you, we began in this pandemic the road over a year ago, right? And what's next is reflect what happened over this last year. And we all must be learning the lessons, because this pandemic happened in 1918, the badly called Spanish flu. And it seems we didn't learn anything about it. If we will look at what happened and how men and women reacted to 1918-20 pandemic, will be lessons learned that we could be applying better today, and we didn't. For me, what's next is making sure that my daughters keep into this path of life that they began, and make sure that my wife and I, we keep them in that right path. Obviously, everybody has to make sure their family members and give thanks that my family, in this case, we passed this pandemic without. But we have to be sorry too, that because we lost friends in the process, like many probably of you know people that lost loved ones. So I think remembering what happened this last year, to me, is what is next, because it's going to give us this kind of sense of who we are, everything we need to be thankful for, and then start applying the lessons learned to hopefully keep building one better community, one plate of food at a time. In the short, I hope in the next week or two, I'll join my teams in India, only because I want to be there, because we have to be there, because we cannot leave those people alone in a moment that right now India is going through hardships. So for me, what is next is going to be more of the same. Trying to take care of my family, try to take care of my business. The way of helping my community is taking care of my business. And in the process, making sure that when there is hardships for people around the world, that every day we will be more prepared, adapting, and in a way, bringing hope, one plate of food at a time. That's what I hope will be next for me.
Thank you so much. I am turning it back over to, I think my colleague Leonard. I can't recall which of you, but Leonard, I think it's back to you for our final closing.
Well, let me say, as our dean will have final words as well, but certainly we want to remind each and every one of the opportunity to give on this evening. That as we are donating that $5,000 to World Central Kitchen, we're challenging everyone to give as equal of what we have given on this evening, or perhaps even more. That once again, helping in this moment someone else can be transformational for their life, for our life, but most of all for the community in which we find ourselves.
So I want to thank, before we end, I want to thank Michelle Dibley, our Director of Programs. She was kind enough to thank others, but she deserves a great amount of thanks for all of the work that she does to make these honest-to-God conversations and so many other programs here at the Cathedral happen. So thank you, Michelle. Thank you for all that you do around this place. Yeah. And Leonard will end us with a prayer. Thank you.
Certainly, as we close in a word of prayer, I'm humbled in this moment to close us in a word of prayer and to be in the presence of leaders who have giving spirits. So we do say thank you to our dean and for his leadership over this past year, as well as in a moment like this, and for a guest on tonight who has humbled perhaps all of us and challenged us to do more than what we call just good. So I invite you to join me in a closing word of prayer. God, as we come in this moment, we are so grateful for your grace and your mercy. We come in this moment perhaps walking in mindful of ourselves, but praying now that as we go from this moment, we will be mindful of our neighbors. And we will not look to just meet their needs by satisfying our own, but truly to walk in the kind of works and righteousness that will allow them to live life fully and abundantly. So we thank you tonight for what our eyes have seen, our ears have heard, and may it now touch that place within all of us that we may do what we've been called to do. So we ask your blessings upon us and thank you for José Andrés and the work that he is doing in times like this. Bless us, keep us, and now send us to the places you have prepared for us. Amen.
God bless you all, and thanks to José Andrés for being with us. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to seeing you soon. God bless. Thank you.